Welcome back to Nightcap Chat, the pop culture, comics, and gaming podcast. Today we are talking our top 3 indie superhero movies. I'm Blade O'Neill.
And I'm Ken Brown.
So Ken, we had to come up with our lists here of our top 3 indie superhero movies, and there were so many more than you even realize off of the top of your head that we did make an honorable mentions list.
Yes, so it's tough, man, because the Marvel and DC movies dominate.
They do.
So much of our movie watching interest that there's some good ones out there that don't get much acclaim and praise, but are really good movies.
Yep.
And narrowing them down, man, dude, that was kind of tough. I had to dig deep in my archives to try to think about which ones would I rank as the top 3.
Yes, and to start off, what I really wanted to get into my top 3, and I'm really sad I didn't, and I'm still debating myself as I'm even saying this right now, was the Dread movie with Carl Urban.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that was so good.
Yeah, it's funny because I keep on, everybody that's told me they've seen that has loved that movie.
No, Ken, you haven't seen it?
That's on my bucket list of things I need to see. And I'm
It's so
man,
good.
dude.
Let me
it's
guess, you saw the Sylvester Stallone run.
Yes, that's why I haven't seen the new one yet.
Yeah, I don't blame you. You know what?
I am the law.
I am the law.
Yeah.
You know what? I've watched the Sylvester Stallone one several times, and I don't know, in its own campy, whatever kind of way. I mean, it's
not
fun.
horrible. It's just like that.
And you got Armand Asante as whatever that other judge. Apparently, his name was Rico, so
it's
I
Rico.
don't know what that means.
Yeah. So too is like my Judge Dredd lore is not as heavily informed as it needs to be.
I mean, who knows if that's something they just made up, though. I mean, I don't know either. I honestly didn't read the comics. Like, my familiarity with Judge Dredd is the Sylvester Stallone movie and the Carl Urban movie, and I know that they haven't shown his face in the comics or something, right? And that was one of the cool things about the Dredd movie is Carl Urban just left the helmet on the whole time.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because Stallone, he couldn't take it. He couldn't keep it on.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I don't take this off. This is getting tight in me, man. It's like, I am the law. I could do whatever I want.
I'm the law.
I got 5 Rocky movies in my belt there. I got some new ones coming up down the road, guys. So stay tuned. I want my face shown.
But what a phenomenal actor Carl Urban was. He was great in Dredd. He was great in The Boys. He was great in Lord of the Rings. Gosh, I mean, what else?
Man, I don't know what he's going to get next, but I hope to see more of him.
He was the executioner in Ragnarok.
Oh, yes, in the Thor Ragnarok movie.
Gosh, what else? I mean, gosh, what a great actor.
Yes.
Another one that got bumped off of your list.
Yes.
But was originally in your top 3. I've seen this movie. I have not read the comics. I thought it was okay.
Yes.
It was Scott Pilgrim.
I like Scott Pilgrim a lot. It's a lot of fun. I'm not a huge, more or less anime manga reader, and it is an American,
I'm not either.
Anime manga. So it's a lot of fun, dude. It's done by Brian Lee O'Malley, and the way that he writes is so pop culture friendly. I mean, He went through video game ideas in there. He went through comic book ideas in there. He went through, vegan society in there. I mean, he just went through this whole adventure of being like a rock star wannabe and just, it was so Sucker Punch-ish in a way, if you think about it. Because like Sucker Punch, I could say is like, if you like Scott Pilgrim, you would definitely like Sucker Punch. And if you like Sucker Punch, I think you'd definitely like Scott Pilgrim. Because it's got a lot of fantasy in your head type of imagination that goes on.
I see what you're saying. I liked Sucker Punch more, but I don't know. It was just.
I mean, Chris Evans was in it, and so was Brandon Routh.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was campier.
Yes, dude. It was very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Fun, popcorn movie.
And it's fun, and if you like that, it's great. Like, there was nothing wrong with the movie. It was just less my personal cup of tea is all. I mean, it was fine. It was entertaining.
Yes, dude. Yeah,
it's what you wanted.
It was. I guess I liked it so much more because I did not expect it to be that good because I never read the mangas beforehand, and there's certain things like that. If I hear someone sell it so much that it's good, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, and
especially when I had no desire to see it, and to come out having that much fun in a movie, I think was really, really kind of cool. That's why it was number 3 on my list. Is like that. Oh, not even, it was number 3, but then got bumped out as to honorary mention because thought of a movie that you cannot leave off your top 3 list.
I made the cardinal sin hint of leaving it off my list. But speaking of sins, Hellboy, which actually you also didn't see. And this is in reference to the first Hellboy. Ron Perlman one with Selma Blair and Doug Jones. But that was good. Rasputin is the bad guy.
Okay.
Of the first, which, classic Hellboy villain. Ron Perlman did a phenomenal job. I mean, poor guy getting typecast with all of these roles with all this makeup on, but he was such a good Hellboy. Selma Blair was awesome. Doug Jones was a great Abe.
Nice.
Doug Jones did the body work, but he was voiced by the guy who plays Niles in Frasier.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yes. So he got the chance at a superhero movie, which was cool, and it totally worked.
Very cool.
But it was just a fun movie.
I got to catch it. Because I said too, it was like the Dark Horse universe. I'll tell you why I was not really interested in seeing Hellboy is I've got a little bit of a grudge towards Mike Mignola.
Oh yeah,
that goes way back to my childhood.
Okay,
because he's awesome, super cool guy, great creator. Now I've got like an adult appreciation for Mike Mignola.
Okay,
but as a kid, I was a big John Byrne Alpha Flight fan.
Okay,
and John Byrne left the book to go do the Hulk, and the creative teams changed. And the creative team on the Hulk at that time was Bill Mantlo and Mike Mignola.
Oh, okay.
And Mike Mignola came on to replace John Byrne's art style on Alpha Flight.
That's so
and I'm
funny.
going, with all due respect, they're most drastically different art styles you'll ever see of any two artists.
Oh
is John Byrne and Mike Mignola.
Funny.
And so I had this huge disdain for this new art style on one of my favorite books.
Yeah.
And, it was just, he didn't stay on the book very long. And I think that was mostly because the fan base was not having any of it.
Yeah.
And, he went on to do other things shortly afterwards too, which was leave Marvel altogether and go to Dark Horse and create Hellboy with, ironically, John Byrne. So John Byrne must have really hit it off hardcore with Mike Mignola when they were working together at Marvel.
Yeah.
Because I said too, like now I've got like a new appreciation for Mike Mignola because of how creative his mind is. I mean, BPRD, I can guarantee you that's going to get a Netflix show within the next 3 years because I don't know if you've heard, but Netflix made a deal with Dark Horse Comics properties.
That's genius. Like they need that losing the Marvel stuff.
Yeah, so now they have Miller World and Dark Horse properties, and I think that's because Umbrella Academy is also a Dark Horse property, and that did so well for them.
I did not realize that.
Yes, and so after
Umbrella
they saw
Academy
the results,
was awesome.
Unbelievably excellent. And I said too, when it comes to us just doing movies, if we connected TV shows into this that weren't, do you know what I mean, movies that were based off of comics. I think we're going to
have to do a TV shows one too.
Yes, I mean, gosh, dude, just Umbrella Academy knocked my socks off. I did not expect to like it as much as I did either as well. And I was just along for the ride the whole time.
I think we talk about Umbrella Academy in a previous episode. I don't know if we did or not. But I'm going to shamefully admit, and if it's admitting it again, when I first heard this Umbrella Academy show was coming out, I was like, oh, I don't want to watch Umbrella Academy. Like, I don't like Resident Evil. I was getting confused with the Umbrella Corporation. So I had assumed this was like a Resident Evil prequel thing that set up the zombie apocalypse. And I kept looking over. My wife was watching it. And I'm like, when are the zombies gonna come into it? And why are there superheroes? Like, I just thought like they started a school that spun off into this corporation that created zombies. And then after I realized that I was completely wrong, I sat down and I watched it, and like it was really good.
Oh, if you're an X-Men fan, especially the Dark Phoenix saga, Umbrella Academy is like right up your alley. Like when they were messing with the violinist, I was totally thinking of Jason Wingard and Jean Grey.
Interesting.
During the time in the Hellfire Club, the original Dark Phoenix story that the movies are so afraid to touch on.
It was fun to. It was, it kind of reminds you in The Boys in the way, because like it was like an X-Men story, but there were flaws on not only the quote X-Men, but there were major flaws of the Professor X figure, you know, who was, what was his name, like the doctor or father or whatever he was called in that. But it was interesting, a lot of fun. But before we get too carried away, maybe we're gonna have to do a TV show episode. The last honorable mention on the list was Wanted.
Yes, I loved Wanted. That was a hard one to leave off of my list too as well.
Yeah,
man, the comic is to me still so much better than the movie. Not the TV show, but the movie. but the way they creatively adapted the idea concept for the movie still had enough undertones or overtones of the comic that Hollywood wasn't ready to put those comic book concepts that Mark Miller put in the Wanted comic into the movie. I mean, it was kind of a little bit of boys to it in a way that the concept of Wanted in the comic was the supervillains realized that if they all teamed up together, they can defeat the superheroes just like that.
Yeah.
Because there's so many more villains than there are superheroes. Mm-hmm. And so the supervillains did have like more as a meeting of the minds and decided to team up and just obliterate all the superheroes because the superheroes knew how to deal with their each unique individual rivalry. And with all of them kind of, did you ever see Acts of Vengeance or read Acts of Vengeance Marvel story back in the late 80s?
Okay.
Marvel did a storyline where they kind of switched dance partners with the superheroes and supervillains.
I see.
Like where the Hellfire Club took on Spider-Man. And, what were some of the other things that happened too as well where, oh gosh, dude, it's been so long since I've read that. Like the X-Men had to deal with more or less, I can't remember if it was Kang, but all the traditional villains of the Avengers took on different members.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yep. And that was something called Acts of Vengeance back at Marvel.
I'll have to take a look at that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it was a crossover for I think a summer crossover one of the years. Yeah. But the Wanted kind of Mark Miller took that idea to a whole new level of like that. They just obliterated all of the superheroes and they took over the world and then erased everybody's memories that superheroes even ever existed. And
but that wasn't in the movie.
No, they didn't do that in the movie at all. Instead, they changed it into an assassins culture, like an underground assassins. I was starting to question whether Wanted was the movie. I was thinking it was when you were describing. Like, I haven't read the comic. Yes, I've only seen the movie. The only thing that's similar is that, oh my gosh, dude, what was the name of Angelina Jolie's character?
I don't remember.
Okay, but the characters from the comic were in the movie, but they totally changed the plot.
Oh, that
a little bit, except at the end too, they revealed that his dad was alive the whole time. At the end of did they do that at the end of the movie? I'm trying to remember on this now. So now I need to go watch the movie again. So I'm getting the comic and the movie confused.
I thought that
because they were training that guy that was the naive, more or less cubicle guy.
It was James McAvoy.
Yes,
and he did a phenomenal job.
Fox was the name of Angelina Jolie's character, if I remember correctly. Was her name Fox?
Yes, Fox. Angelina Jolie played Fox. James McAvoy was Wesley Gibson. Wait a second. Chris Pratt was Barry. I didn't even know who Chris Pratt was at the time.
So Chris Pratt was like the jerk guy that showed up to steal his girlfriend?
Is that what it was?
So I'm wondering like that. Because was that his roommate?
And Common was the gunsmith, remember?
Yes. Let me see here too. Let me go back to my...
Yeah, to me, like the main charm of Wanted was just the good cast and, it was well acted, an interesting concept and the way he he was able to channel what he thought was anxiety, but it was just like he had these
skills.
Yeah, these heightened assassin senses to be able to curve the bullet,
Yes. So too, it's like that it's because in the Wanted comic, he was the son of one of the villains, and the villain was trying to more or less keep his son out of the villain game. Okay. And so it was almost like the villain started what happens when, more as the Mark Miller end of the premise was that what happens when the bad guys rule the world. Mm-hmm. One of the bad guys becomes so bad that it creates a good guy to keep him in check. And in the comic, his dad was the one that was started more or less, okay, man, this is getting way too out of control. He became kind of the hidden good guy inside the bad guy world. And eventually he was murdered in the start of the comic series.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the comic series revealed he faked his murder so he could become the good guy out of the group.
Yeah,
it was kind of interesting then, like more or less he had Fox, who was one of the other villainous girls, work with bringing his son up to speed to be another ally to try to more or less stop what was going on.
Yeah.
And in the movie, they turned into an assassin's guild, which was really kind of cool. But at the same time, the comic book version of it fit so much towards the superhero storytelling that most comic readers are used to.
Well, then I'm glad I left it off my top 3. But as we were sitting here, I'm shocked that we left 2 off of our honorable mention list that I just added on here. We never even mentioned Sin City.
Yes, you're right, dude. Sin City
was awesome.
List.
I'm debating whether or not to switch, but I think I'm going to keep it off of my top 3.
Yes, dude. Sin City was a masterpiece.
I've seen Sin City several times, and what a cast! Like Mickey Rourke.
Gosh, dude.
The Mickey Rourke story was awesome.
Yes.
I love Clive Owen. He did a fantastic job. I mean, even Jessica Alba was good.
Yes.
Rosario Dawson. And I think that was one of Michael Clark Duncan's last movies.
Oh, really?
Right?
Wow. I did not know that.
It's got to be.
Yeah, it's like that. And Bruce Willis.
Was yes.
unbelievable in it, too.
How about Elijah Wood? Even though he didn't have a line, he was so creepy.
Yes. Yeah, he was the yellow bastard, wasn't he?
No.
Which was Elijah Wood?
Elijah Wood was the cannibal.
Oh, okay.
Remember with the glasses?
Yes.
Oh, man.
It's creepy, super creepy.
Yes. And then when he gets eaten by the wolves at the end, he's just sitting there, not moving, just letting the wolves eat him.
Just the cinematography of that, too. They made that movie look like a comic book on screen.
Yes.
And that was so freaking
And they did a good job of it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I love just watching the more or less the animated raindrops happen during some of the car rides going through when they did some of the screenshot changes. It was to me one of the most unbelievably creative comic book movies ever made. In fact, I think that would have to go onto my list, and I don't know which one to drop off, but I think I have to drop off one of them too.
I'm considering switching this now. Man,
Sin City was unbelievable. You could put on your list if you like, dude. Because I said too, there's one up there I see duplicated.
Okay, so before I switch in Sin City, 300 is a really popular.
That's what I was going to touch on next too. 300.
I'm going to start by saying I think 300 is one of the most overrated independent.
Really?
Yes. Graphic novel movies.
Wow. Why is that?
Honestly, I think it's because everyone went to go see it. When it first came out, I was like, "Oh my gosh, did you see 300? It was so good." This is like. I think it was just so overhyped for me by the time I went and I saw it, and then they all died at the end. I was like, what is this? And that's what happens in history. Like the Spartans all died. I was like, well, but I figured it was a comic book movie, so they'd all survive in this one, So like, I think it was just my expectations were misplaced, and I don't think it's anything beyond that. Gerard Butler did a great job. The villain was interesting.
Dude, same thing with the cell shading in that movie. I mean, the camera cinematography in that was just freaking gorgeous. I felt like it was so mystic when you're sitting there watching with those darker colors to it. And
it was just a fun man movie, like, let's go fight.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you could say that too as well. It is like kind of like a typical, muscle movie, and that's about it. But it was, I don't know. I thought it was really well done too as well.
And I'm sure it was like the comics. And I've, following the success or I don't know how successful Sin City was, but like 300 did a good job again, kind of doing some things from the comics. But I think after that, it started falling flat when they did that other comic book movie. It had Samuel L. Jackson, The Spirit.
Oh, The Spirit, yes.
And they tried to emulate that same style of Sin City. But by the time they did that, it was like, well... this is Sin City, but it's not Sin City. And it just wasn't as good. It was
so bad. I never watched it.
I went to the theaters to see it because I loved the first Sin City. I was like, yes, this is going to be great. And it was garbage. I don't even remember what the plot was. Samuel Jackson was the bad guy.
Yes.
I think he had a sword at one point for some reason. And then he put on some Japanese clothes.
Yes.
I don't even know. It said something about egg on his face.
Another honorable mention I just came to my head was the Green Hornet.
Which one?
With Will Ferrell? Not Will Ferrell.
Seth Rogen?
Seth Rogen. Thank you, dude.
Really?
Did you like that?
I never saw it.
I don't know. I didn't think it was that bad. I said, too, it's not up in that top 10, but it was a fun movie. Like, it's a Green Hornet was a character I never had too much interest in. I remember seeing him on
Maybe that's why you liked it so much.
Yes, dude. Because, like, it's for a character I have no interest in to become something that I enjoyed watching the movie of. it was Kato too as well, dude. Kato more or less carried that movie in my opinion. And Green Hornet was more or less, I don't want to say like that, you know, he was a stodgy superhero in a way. And usually the sidekick never gets his due.
Yeah.
And in that movie, Kato carried that movie, the actor who played Kato.
Okay. I mean, I heard about that. But like I said, I never saw it. But speaking of Seth Rogen, trying to look it up right now. I thought, Seth Rogen. Yeah, Seth Rogen was one of the producers on The Boys.
Oh, really?
So
that makes
I mean,
sense.
like he's
big superhero fan.
Yeah, no,
comic fan.
He is. So I think I am going to add Sin City to my top 3.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and. Ooh, this is hard. I'm gonna knock off. That is hard. Yeah. Okay. So I know what.
Go on, you could do it still with that.
Okay. I'm going to remove my number 3 and I'm going to add Sin City as my number 3 movie.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say what my number 3 movie was because it's on your list. So Sin City is my number 3 movie because I've seen Sin City so many times. Like I have to put it on my top 3.
The movie's outstanding.
So what's your number 3 on your list, on your top 3 list?
Man, dude, this has been like super, super tough for me. Is like that The Crow is number 3, and that could easily be number 2 because it's like almost like 2A and 2B for me on my list there.
Fair enough.
But
The Crow's great. Yeah,
unbelievable. Classic. And I said too is like
cult
that
classic.
Yes, and I'm not as big of a fan of Crow comics as I am of the Crow movie. And I think that's part of it too as well. Is like Brandon Lee did such an amazing job that where he even died on the set.
Such a shame.
Yeah, such a terrible, terrible part of that movie. But Bruce Lee's son, the fact it's more comic book. Man, dude, it's totally a great comic book story. Do you know what I mean? The guy that dies, you know, comes back, haunts, almost like it's not quite Ghost Rider. Yeah. It's man, dude, it's the perfect vengeance movie.
But gosh, how crazy it is to think he's a character that dies and comes back, but he actually died during the shooting
of the movie.
That's like I don't even know.
Yeah, and it's such a urban legend comic book fan fate that you think you would never see connect together in any type.
And you hope never to see it.
Yes, and it's just so it's hard to explain, dude. It's so surreal about how that whole movie production came to be.
And it makes you wonder, like,
plus it was Bruce Lee's son who died in a similar way.
Yes.
Did Bruce Lee die during filming too, if I remember correctly? That is crazy.
Not quite. He did collapse while filming because of the swelling of the brain. But a couple of months later is when he actually died at that producer's house.
Wow.
But I guess there are conspiracy theories surrounding his death, but we won't get into that right now. But yes, I mean, crazy. You know, it's a shame. It's tragic. Very sad. And, makes you wonder, maybe is that why people are hesitant to remake The Crow? Because there's been working on a reboot for a while. Originally, I think it was, what's his name, who plays Rocket, was attached to play The Crow.
Oh my gosh, dude. Rocket Raccoon, right?
Yeah.
Why am I forgetting his name right now? My brain is slipping it today.
Or was it him? And then it was Jason Momoa, which also might have been, a good choice.
Yes.
But it seems like the reboot's not happening. So, I mean, we'll see what that comes down to. So, so you want to start with your number 2?
Yeah, I guess we'll do it like that. This is one of my favorites. I'm a really big fan of Ben Stiller, but Mystery Men.
And
absolutely,
I did not realize that was a
fun popcorn comic movies I think I've ever seen.
I was pretty young when I saw that, but I was super into it. Yes. And I thought it was funny, and I think I just didn't truly understand like how much of a parody it was. But like,
oh man, it's the perfect parody. The ditch digger,
yes, and what a bowler, what a cast.
The invisible man that was never invisible the whole time.
I'm invisible. Can you see me? Yes. I did think that was funny. As a kid.
Yes.
I remember my brother really liked. I forget the name of the angry character, but he would just be angry and he'd be smashing things. And I thought the bowler, was cool. Like she had her father's skull, like in that bowling ball, and she would talk to it.
It was just as I said too, it was so like tongue in cheek, making fun of superheroes, but you had to love it. It kind of reminded me of Kevin Smith's Dogma. And
I never saw it.
Okay, it's like that. Things like where they can look at culture and tongue-in-cheek poke fun at it,
sure,
but not insult it.
Well,
do you know what I mean? And it was so much fun to get through that movie and enjoy a movie that something I do love, which is superhero comics and characters that do fantastic things. But then I kind of think like, what's the most absurd spin we can put on this? Yeah, and that was totally Mr. Min, and it was based off of the comic book too.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that, and that's really neat. But like, I mean, it's just a funny movie. I mean, like I said, great cast.
Yes.
I never watched Pee Wee Herman or anything, but you had the Pee Wee Herman actors.
Paul Rubens.
Yeah, Paul Rubin playing the spleen. I think
so absurd, dude.
It was so incredibly dumb.
Yes, but it was so much fun to watch. I said too. It's like that's number 2 on the list. Not the most. How would you say it? Intellectually superior choice of top 3, but I really loved it. Something I would sit there and watch and enjoy watching every time I watched it.
No, I definitely, I enjoyed watching that as well. My number 2, I guess is a little more intellectual, is V for Vendetta.
Yes.
Now I do understand that there are plenty of, it derives from the comic, plenty, but Hugo Weaving's performance was just made the movie. I mean, you've seen it, right?
Yes, I've seen it once.
Really?
I said too. I need to see it again. Yes,
I saw it at least twice in theaters alone. Forget about how many times I saw it on DVD. But like Hugo Weaving is just another one. Like he's such.
I do need to rewatch
a good
again.
actor.
Yes,
and gosh, you have.
Was it Natalie Portman in that too?
Yes, Natalie Portman played Evie. Kind of, she becomes. Like V becomes her mentor essentially, but they're in this, it's not post-apocalyptic, it was the future of England, and they've kind of being run by like a tyrant now. And he's played by, it's, the bad guy's played by John Hurt. He's this dictator, another phenomenal actor. My gosh, like I can't say enough. I think like when I first walked into that theater, the first time I saw it, I think I got there a little late. And it's when they do like I think the building exploding in the beginning, and it's set to that classic tune there, and it's like, whoa, what's going on here? And like it just hooked me in, and like I don't know, like I think I'm just a sucker for great performances, and Hugo Weaving's a great actor. I'm like, I even made a V for Vendetta costume.
Nice.
I remember. Actually, I've got a Guy Fawkes mask, right above where we're filming here, because it's a good, fun movie.
Well, the Wachowski brothers being behind the production of it, too. I mean, those guys just are geniuses when it comes to putting together great action movies, too, and great drama.
Yeah, and the fight sequences were great. I doubt Hugo Weaving was doing that himself, but all those knife fights were great, and V just had so many great lines. Plus, he's quoting Shakespeare, and I love Shakespeare. Well, to
get both the Matrix and V for Vendetta during one lifetime, you can't miss too much of like your legacy there is pretty much cemented with how the Matrix franchise really appealed to so many fans, similar of V for Vendetta too as well.
Yep. No, V for Vendetta was fun. So now it's time for our number ones.
Wow.
My number 1, and I put this as number 1 because I read this comic first, and I was just incredibly pleased with the interpretation, and I thought it was pretty much all right on, and that is Watchmen.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, dude, Watchmen is one of those ones I have no argument from at all for putting that on your list. And I even think the movie ending was better than the comic ending.
And you know what? And I'd agree with it. And like it made more sense to the story as a whole, because what's this, I don't know, like giant octopus thing or whatever it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
This
Asmodeus had communication with aliens in space that would come at his beacon call.
Yeah, sure, fine, but like this worked. This did work a lot better. Yes. Although I was surprised, but I was like, I'm surprised, which is fine, but I'm not disappointed.
Yes,
and I mean, they even didn't put any clothes on Dr. Manhattan, which I was really surprised. But I mean, that was right from the comic. And Dr. Manhattan was Dr. Manhattan, the comedian. He was crazy. I mean, it was Jeffrey Dean Morgan as a comedian, phenomenal. I mean, Ozymandias was right on. Rorschach. I mean, everything was
perfect. Almost.
Just great. I mean, sure, we didn't have the little pirate subplot or whatever, but I mean, what were you going to do?
The Black Freighter
story? What were you going to do with that?
Yeah, it doesn't fit in that same way.
It's a different medium, right?
Didn't they do an animated feature that came along as a subset?
I think so.
Of the Watchmen movie when they released it, you could watch the Black Freighter story.
I'm pretty sure.
Was reading on the sidewalk. That they kept on touching on in the comic series. But the one thing I love about your top two choices is they're both Alan Moore creations. And it's funny too because like, did Alan Moore put his name attached with V for Vendetta?
You know, I'm not sure. And the crazy thing is like V for Vendetta. I mean, with all of it derived so much, but also I want to, from what I understand, because I haven't read all of the V for Vendetta comic, it's the opposite politically as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which I'm sure he might have been upset about.
Yeah,
like we won't say what's what, but I mean, like it was the opposite, which was interesting.
That's interesting aspect on that. Because like same thing with Watchmen. He didn't want to put his name on the Watchmen movie.
I think he's been grumpy about all of this, right?
If
I'm not mistaken, like he's pretty vocal about that, right?
Yeah, he wants it. He wants someone to do a perfect interpretation.
I get that, and that's cool. And like I would like to see that.
Yes,
honestly, like I mean, even Watchmen, like I would have been fine with the giant octopus monster or whatever, at the end. But Watchmen was almost there.
I know Watchmen was, I said too, for those last 5 minutes, everything was almost page for page. It felt like,
and I think I've mentioned this in other episodes, but like, even some of my favorite dialogue, like they were when Owlman and Saturn Girl
Silk Spectre.
Sorry. Yes. I keep calling her Saturn Girl. They're after their date or whatever it was, they're walking home. They're talking about like Rorschach. And no, they're talking about this guy. He used to like flash people, like this bad guy. And it's like, oh, you remember that guy? Like, yeah, like whatever happened to him? Like, oh, he tried to pull that on Rorschach. Like, oh, what happened? Like, oh, he dropped him down an elevator shaft. They start laughing. Yes. And I was like, oh no, that's terrible. Like that was that dialogue was right from the comics. Like we had like even just these little moments that really don't matter, but like that really make it. You know?
That's what I liked about The Boys too. The Boys would take things that, even though they deviated a lot from the comic, I started reading The Boys graphic novel trade paperback again after seeing the TV series, just to try to get deeper into it than I did before. And some of those comments were like exactly out of the comics. That's always fun to see that when you catch that.
Yeah,
and Watchmen, as you said too, hit that multiple times in that movie. But go ahead, dude.
Even with his I think a lot of Rorschach's like dialogue too, because you read the comics, Rorschach's journal, blah blah blah. Like, that was just like right on.
Yes. Yeah, they really cared about what they were doing with the Watchmen movie. Like, I totally truly believe is like they wanted to impress Alan Moore, not disappoint him.
Yeah.
Because everybody loves that story so much that interpreting it is in movie silver screen presence is an honor. I mean, Watchmen's the best selling comic book trade paperback graphic novel of all time. And that's for a reason. Obviously the story is epic.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And to get the chance to produce that, like whether it's a novel, whether, do you know what I mean? It's the producers of these movies want to do justice to what they enjoy. And I kind of feel like that, unfortunately, like Alan Moore's like that, hey, it's like, I'm not supporting it, dude. You changed my ending. And it's frustrating because David Gibbons at least got his due. And it's interesting seeing like Watchmen created by Dave Gibbons. And, it's cool that Dave Gibbons gets that honor, but it's kind of like the whole Bob Kane, Bill Finger thing for such a long time. But it's by Alan Moore's choice to leave his name off there, which is, unfortunate because he is such a great creative mind of this time in the world of comic books.
Yeah, obviously. And I think part of the appeal too for the Watchmen was that it was like alternate history. Yes. Which I think is always fun. Like even like when they do like alternate World War II movies, like Inglourious Bastards.
Yes.
This was so interesting because what an interesting part of history, because now Richard Nixon is still president.
Yes.
Like there were all these little fun little things, and the opening credits sequence was fantastic. And it really helps set the tone for like where are we in alternate history?
Yes.
And kind of what's going on. And it really paints the mood of, kind of what's going on in the world.
Well, how superheroes impacted the change of history.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Even more.
Exactly.
And that's too, is like that. This is almost like, Boys almost feels like a nod to the Watchmen in a lot of ways.
I felt like that because you have the flawed superhero thing, but it was just done different.
Yeah.
It was a different kind of flawed.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just, it's like super, super, super good look at superheroes being human sides of themselves and what they have to deal with as the choices they make. As you said, like Watchmen was just unbelievable.
And it was between The Boys and Watchmen, it was two takes on what it means to be like Superman, you know, because Dr. Manhattan is so far beyond Superman that like he literally wasn't human, did not care he was naked, just, you either exist or you don't kind of a thing.
Yeah. Taking it to a whole new level of like what it means to exist.
Yeah. So the final reveal here in our top 3 lists, we got Ken's number 1.
Yeah, and I said too, is like when you go into a movie and you read the comic like that's here.
Yes, and this is a comic I read as well.
Yes, and it's just kick-ass. And I said too, the name, when you first see this coming out as a comic, you're going, are you serious, dude? It's that bold of a name? This comic better kick ass. And it didn't lay an egg at all. It was unbelievable from start to finish. The concept of, almost like a Spider-Man type of character, not getting bit by anything, not getting any superpowers.
Yep.
Almost like Batman and Spider-Man combo type of thing where not even like any type of assistance other than the fact of like he's a flawed kid that wants to be a superhero.
When we were kids reading comics, we
dreamt of this.
You tell me that never crossed your mind. Like you just wanted to put on a costume and just beat a bad guy. Cause like I know I wanted to do that.
Yeah, jump off a rooftop, dude, and just go from rooftop to rooftop, run as fast as I can and see if I can make it from rooftop to rooftop. And just little things too is like that, what a great way to get back at the bullies that bullied other kids at school type of thing. Like that even kind of imagination type of stuff. But just seeing Mark Millar's creation with John Romita Jr., so much fun to watch on screen. As I said too, Hit Girl, when they introduced Hit Girl in the comic, you're going, holy crap.
How are they going to do this?
Yes, dude. It's like, how are they going to have like this 11-year-old beast?
And it was the same way.
Yes. And they just totally let loose and teaching Lewinsky, the kid that was kick-ass, how to be a superhero, and Big Daddy being Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. Chloe Grace Moritz did a fantastic job as Hit Girl. And I'm so glad.
Mindy McConnell, right? Was that the name of the character she was? Her secret identity?
That sounds right.
Yeah, dude.
I don't. I was disappointed that Nick Cage was
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
Really?
I thought that fell a little flat.
Who do you think would have been a better actor for that?
To play Big Daddy? Oh gosh, like anybody else?
Yeah, thanks, dude. Yeah, he had such a great relationship with the actress that played Hit Girl. I thought they had like a good chemistry. I think it was a little bit softer than it was in the comic because in the comic he was more or less like Batman. Do you know what I mean? Like he was.
And I don't understand why they made his costume more like Batman.
Punisher and Batman mixed together was Big Daddy. I mean, it's just the. Imagine, Frank Castle's daughter surviving. And that's totally what, Big Daddy and Hit Girl was in the comic.
I would have been happy with anybody.
And the funny thing, too, is like I wish they did the element from the comic into the movie where Big Daddy was a comic book fan. Because that was where he had all of his reference material was from the comics he read as a kid. And that's what inspired him to become Big Daddy. And that's something they didn't touch on at all in the movie. And I thought that would have been great to do. I mean, they had that one scene where they went into the comic shop where all the kids loved going to the comic shop. And it was a comic shop / coffee shop. And that was kind of a lot of fun, too. It was almost like that, oh, my gosh, that's cool when they have moments inside the comic shop.
Yep.
And they did that in the Kick-Ass comic, too, as well. But to have the big reveals, like where did Big Daddy get all of his training from? Like when he was finally killed at the end of the original Kick-Ass comic was that this guy is just a comic fan like the rest of these guys.
Interesting.
And that's something they could have touched on in the movie, but they more or less made him like, if I remember correctly, a retired police officer.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds right.
And that the other guy that was inside, his best friend, was kind of saying, dude, you can't be doing this, man. And I think that was the movie treatment that they gave it to kind of more or less validate this guy, not just reading comics, becoming the most dangerous vigilante in the city.
And I think that works.
It was a lot of fun. Even the Crimson Mist reveal, I thought they did a good job of the guy that was trying to be his sidekick, but then in the end was the true villain.
Yep.
And in the comic that got me, and in the movie, I thought if you were a moviegoer, you got there too as well, even if you haven't read the comic. And I think both times they executed that really well, that you had no clue Crimson Mist was the true villain of the story.
And if I remember correctly, I think it was even the same dialogue, because he's writing something in his typewriter, and at the end it's like, to quote, I don't know if he says like a great man or whatever, but we all know it's, Jack Nicholson's Joker, like, wait till they get a load of me.
Yes.
And they did that in I think it was the after the credits scene for Kick-Ass, right? In that reveal, but like it was right from the comic.
Yep. And it was that's what I believe. That's what I loved about it too, is like they did a really good job pulling as much as they could from the comic to have you be entertained as a moviegoer and appreciate both. Like that's what I loved so much about Kick-Ass, is like, if I never read the comic, I can honestly say I would go to that movie and say that was absolutely awesome. And I said to the only time I really wouldn't is if like that, okay, I got my 3-year-old daughter not knowing what this is supposed to be a comic book movie. You know what I mean? You can't do that, obviously. It is for mature audiences. It was Deadpool before it was Deadpool.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? And that movie coming out set that bar for, we can do superhero movies that are a little bit more edgy and it still be successful.
Yep.
And as I said too, it was like that, if there's any movie you can give Deadpool credit for succeeding to let it open the gates for it, I would say it was Kick-Ass, as going to that next level of let's bring an edgier movie to the screen.
I can see that.
Even more edgy than Sin City. Yes, Sin City had, some graphic nudity and some graphic violence, but nowhere near as, like, how would you say it, Commando-esque version of a superhero movie.
Yeah, because it's a graphic novel. You know, there's fantastical elements. It wasn't superheroes though. Like it was
set in everyday reality.
Yeah, it was police, and the Yellow Bastard was like the weirdest thing.
Yes.
In the first Sin City movie.
Okay, I thought about like Kick-Ass still. No, about that dude. Yeah.
No, but Kick-Ass is just straight up superheroes. Like you can see the poster, like, Mommy, I want to see Kick-Ass.
Yes, you think it's a superhero movie. And then people, like, I love the fact, too, there was no superpowered beings in that movie either, in Kick-Ass. It was just people trying to become vigilantes in their neighborhoods.
That's right. There totally wasn't.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that.
Totally grounded in reality. Wow. People like, what's it like to be a superhero? Let me try do this. And I love the guy, too, that flies off the roof and lands on the taxi. That was straight out of the comic.
That's right.
At the start of that. I'm going, oh my gosh, dude, this is so classic, because that's what totally shocked me. And I started reading the comic is like that. There's a, contingency of people trying to protect their cities, and they are the world's first superheroes. And you think this guy's going to have powers. He just jumps off the building thinking his wings are going to carry him. And he just plop. And he goes, not everybody's so good at this yet.
Yep.
And this guy right here is, our main character of the story. And luckily they didn't do that as in the movie too, because the next scene was Lewinsky with battery chargers hooked up to his proverbial nutsack.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
Remember that?
Yeah,
in the comic, and they cut that out of the movie too as well. I know they electrocuted obviously Big Daddy. Maybe that was an homage, more or less, to that. I mean, same type of criminal. So I guess that's why they kind of, do you know what I mean? Did that inside of the movie where he died a similar type of way as Lewinsky was. Shocked at the start of the comic series. And actually, wasn't it just Big Daddy? Was his building just blown up at the end of the movie?
I thought they were
trying to save it before the dynamite blew up.
I thought they shocked him.
They shocked him first too, right? Inside the movie?
And then I think they shot him.
Okay, cool. So I remember too, it was like the warehouse they were in, they had to get out before the whole thing blew up. I'm trying to remember now too as well. I need to go watch this again, even though it's my favorite. I remember the most from this movie. It's like there's things that, you watch so much stuff and read so much stuff, you need to go recap yourself on sometimes.
And who knew at the time that this movie would have both of the only actors to play Quicksilver?
Oh, absolutely. Isn't that kind of crazy too?
The guy who played him in Age of Ultron, and what's his name? Is it Evan Peters, who played him in the Fox movies, I believe, was Kick-Ass's friend. They went on to go play Quicksilver. So, I mean, they're nothing like being a typecast superhero, right?
Yes, absolutely. Chris Evans knows that all too well.
Yeah, that's right. Because he's done it 3 times, right? Human Torch, Captain America, and Scott Pilgrim.
Yes. So it's kind of funny like that how certain people...
Was Snowpiercer a comic?
Snowpiercer was a comic too. It was a
graphic novel. So he was in four comic book movies. Interesting.
Yeah, and what I like about it is each time he played a character, it was a different personality.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing too, is like Chris Evans could get typecast in that way, but he's good at playing different roles. And that's what blows me away. Because like when I heard he was going to be Captain America, I immediately thought about him being Human Torch.
Me too, and I was so mad.
Yes, and in another teen movie where he played like that same type of Human Torch character. I'm going, oh boy, is Captain America going to be Mr. Arrogant?
Yes,
not at all.
I was so mad. I was like, Chris Evans? I'm like, really? Like, this could have been...
Dude, the most humble Captain America character I think you could ever imagine Captain America being. And Chris Evans pulled it off from being that, that jock quarterback inside Not Another Teen Movie to just being the most humble spirit of like that. Hey, it's like that. You treat people right. You do things right. This is America. We all have a chance. We all need to be united together. And, the absolutely opposite of what he was in those previous other 2 movies where I had seen him as an actor.
And so that's about all the time we have for that. We'd love to hear what you think of our top 3 indie superhero movies. What are your top 3? Or is there ones that aren't even on this list that we forgot to mention? There's plenty of other ones.
Yeah, like one of the ones I know that we didn't mention that it was in the back of my head we were talking about earlier was The Rocketeer.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yes, dude. That's one of the ones that like that. We want to hear your guys' opinion on that. Like that, is that going to be on your top 3 list? Because that's one I love to hear your guys' feedback on. Because,
oh gosh, and we didn't even talk about Ninja Turtles.
Oh, that's right, Ninja Turtles too as well. That's another huge one that you guys, throw out there to us and like put us informed about why those are on your top 3 lists.
Let's hear those top 3 lists. Go ahead and comment on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's at Nightcap Chat, all one word, on Facebook and Twitter, and at Nightcap_chat on Instagram. And you can also find Drawn Comics at Drawn Comics. I believe that's on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, right?
Yes, and then also DrawnComics.com.
Thank you all for listening. Appreciate you all taking the time to this, 45 minutes to an hour every week, listening, liking, subscribing, sharing. Appreciate you being a part of this. And we'll catch you all the same time next week.
Thank you for listening, everyone.